How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the channel. As many of you know, Squad has announced some pretty big changes, with some coming sooner than others. Naturally, some of these are also bigger than others, but they all add into the bigger picture. What are these changes, you ask? Well, we've got the migration to Unreal Engine 5, which has a whole host of things attached to it, CAS helicopters with working countermeasures, but also manpads. Yes, they have showcased handheld anti-air systems. There's also changes coming to the infantry combat system too, so this sounds like another balancing sweep to further tweak the ICO changes, and a bunch more stuff I'll get into later on in this video. But before we do dive in, make sure to subscribe for more Squad guides, gameplay and updates. Okay, so I actually want to start with what we will be getting first, and that is the 8.2 update. Scheduled for late November or possibly early December, 8.2 lists a few key things. First is battle group balancing. This is simply a balancing sweep across all of the battle groups, battalions or divisions, whatever you want to call them. Simply, it will be tweaks to things like the number of vehicles each battalion get, and the possibility of some changes to infantry kit limits too. For example, we see that light infantry gets 4 heavy anti-tank kits right now, so maybe they'll allow more combat engineers when you choose support, for example. But yeah, a pretty simple one this one, but remember this when it drops, and you start voting for things, as there could be a few assets removed that you've forgotten. The next one is a big one, gunplay tuning. Not a lot has been released about this just yet, but during Squad's live stream last week, a bunch of the playtesters were allowed to share their opinions of the upcoming changes. And with a few meme responses aside, it's generally hailed as a big improvement and sounds like the community will certainly welcome the upcoming changes. I'm looking forward to this. Whilst I was always a fan of the concept of the ICO, I was also very vocal about some of the things I wasn't happy with, especially when there's some weapons that are just absolute dogpile. So hopefully things will be much more enjoyable across the board. However, I will hold my reservation until I get to physically try this myself. The invasion standardization is a pretty minor change, and by the sounds of things, it's just going to make all invasion layers have the same amount of cap points and the same amount of starting tickets for both teams. Whereas currently, you got some games defenders will start with 100 tickets more or less than you normally do, depending on the map. And the updated PLA uniform is the addition of the Starry Skies uniform, which finally gives the People's Liberation Army a woodland camo to use in the woodland biomes. Now, a new feature 8.2 brings is a working in-game friends list that will allow you to join into a server that your friend is on at the click of a button. Okay, it's no lobby join, but that may come in the future. But being able to allow a friend to follow you into a game is going to make life much easier. It doesn't work via Steam, so this is going to be perfect if you enjoy stalking people. The UI isn't finalised, by the way. This is just a placeholder at the moment, and that's why it looks a bit, well, it looks like it's been done by a programmer. Moving on to the next big one. And yes, this is Unreal Engine 5. Squad isn't moving to UE5 just yet, but they have been working hard on the migration for this, which is still ongoing and has been for quite some time. There will be a full dev blog posted about this soon, which will go into much more detail about the whole migration, but for now, they felt it was the right time to announce it to the community, especially with them coming under increasing pressure for lack of optimization updates. And this is basically why. There's no point optimizing your game on an older engine when you're planning to swap over to a new one. You wouldn't be putting any more money into that B16 you've got in your car when you've got a K20 on a pallet right next to it, would you? Now, OWI have stated this will not be rushed, and the migration will only happen when it's ready. But this allows them better access to tools to further develop the game and make all-round improvements. They have broken this down into 3 development stages, which may include some public playtesting towards the end. A bit like what we did in the past for the ICO and things. Stuff like this will greatly help, as they will be getting a much wider range of data, as people should be able to try this out on their supercomputer to modern day potatoes and everything else in between. Best thing is, it's winter, so you could use your PC as a heater if you needed to. Now the first stage we've kind of already seen with the showcasing of the Al Basra map overhaul, which has been done completely in UE5 and has been tested a good few times in the private playtesting group where they only have 2 working factions right now. But that's how they want to start, they want to keep it simple. And I've been involved in a couple of these playtests. It's fun. The second stage mentions vehicle physics change and lighting technology. That's going to give the developers access to things like lumen and nanite. This is stuff I don't really know anything about, so I won't pretend that I do, but basically, these are things that change the lighting and shading and rendering of things within the game, so there's the potential to improve not only how things look, but how things are optimized. If only it was that simple though. But again, this is why the devs are telling us about this and saying they're not dropping until it's ready. Now moving on to the vehicle physics change, and this is something I am maybe a tiny little bit more clued up on. Because the main thing that this change is going to bring is not only better vehicle traction, but finally, torque. It's all fine and well having power, but without torque, you can't get going. This is why some vehicles in Squad currently are absolutely abysmal when it comes to going up the slightest of inclines. Mixing now with the improved traction that vehicles will be getting, we'll finally be able to climb and clear over obstacles and hills much more efficiently. Suspension on both wheeled and tracked vehicles will behave in a much more realistic manner, so hopefully that little 1x1 pixel stone isn't going to turn your vehicle upside down. I just hope now that the 8-wheeled APCs will be able to move when they are missing a single wheel, like they are designed to. Because currently in Squad, you lose one wheel, you ain't going anywhere. And the final stage will be optimization and fine-tuning. This will be where the main focus of the UE5 migration will be to ensure performance improves, is stable, and is as bug-free as they can get it. But keep in mind, this will probably be done to a point where they are happy enough to release it, but it also allows further improvements to come as time goes on, through future updates and patches like they have done previously. All in all, the move to Unreal 5 makes sense. What's the point in being on an older engine that will eventually have its support dropped by Unreal anyway? This gives the developers a whole load more tools to improve all aspects of the game. I'm just grateful that OWI are actually being open and honest about things, rather than hiding behind PR language. Siege, the community manager of Squad, basically said, "We want to do this, but if we come out and give you a date and then have to push it back, it's because we want this to work properly. A delay can suddenly pop up and that can take months to fix, which it would suck, but it would be far worse releasing something that's broken and could potentially leave players being unable to play the game." And that right there shows that they want to do things right, but want us to know exactly what's going on, and that itself is a huge improvement. The planned release date for the blog is probably going to be some point either this week or next, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll dive into it if I feel it's necessary. A few other things that got leaked along with the UE5 talk was the dynamic weather and lighting, which is going to make some maps look absolutely incredible and give us some really unique experiences. I just hope though the darker situations aren't going to be exploitable via things like Nvidia filters, but having things like dynamic time of day changes and weather is going to make the game feel so much more immersive. The one thing I think people will be most excited for is the addition of more CAS helicopters and the early workings of manpads and countermeasures. Now I haven't got a great deal to show on this just yet, but they showcased the very early workings of this on stream. And this is really going to add a new level of spice within Squad. Heli pilots are certainly going to have to up their game. Oh, and there was a low-key clue hinting at destruction in the future. That's pretty much all I've got for you this week, guys. I know I'm pretty late getting this one out compared to others, but that's the joy of working full-time and doing this on the side. But what are you most excited to see for these announcements, and what would you like to see change in the future? Because I really hope they change fall damage. Don't forget to subscribe for more Squad guides, gameplay and updates, and thank you all for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video or in my server. Good night.